Alrighty, so a quick disclaimer before we get into this video too far. I do want to say that this wasn't me trying out like the best teams you've ever seen with Lostvayne on all of these demonic beasts. This was literally me just trying to throw him on a team that I already sort of kind of use, seeing how he fares, testing out his cards in different situations, and just kind of just getting information more than anything. I'm not actually trying to beat any of them, but if I do, it was just kind of like a byproduct of saying, you know, kind of how easy it was with him. So yeah, that's just my little fair warning, I guess. But if you're new to the channel or anything, feel free to subscribe. We're on the way to 15k. That'd be super cool if you stuck around. But let's get into this thing. So obviously I have some bird footage here first. The bird was obviously the easiest one as far as I'm concerned. I obviously did use Ultimate Eikthyrnir and Roxy, which made it just super fast. I do think that it was pretty good overall. I don't necessarily know that it was as good as maybe running Trader Melee, and I say that mainly because Trader Melee just synergizes very well with Nidhoggr overall, which is really nice. And for some reason, there was a reoccurring pattern where every single one of these demonic beasts would barely ever crit Lostvayne for some reason. I don't know if just those enemies have low crit chance or what the case is there, but there was very few situations where I was like, oh, I've got actually decent cards in hand, I hope I get crit, but it was really 50-50. Well, probably less than that. It felt like a 25% chance on whether or not they were going to crit, and a lot of the times it just did not go through. When it did, obviously that was really nice. Like, using his cards ranked up was really good. He did deal a lot of damage, so that was very cool. The bird, I think personally, is the easiest. I know a lot of people think that the deer is the easiest, but I was able to beat all 3 floors of the deer or the bird, no problem. As I was getting ready to edit this, I realized that when I got to the last phase of floor 1, where he has like tons of like defense stats or whatever, I was like, ooh, I didn't use any Lostvayne cards during this, so I just went back earlier and sort of re-recorded a little bit of a run where I just let him get ranked up, use some of his gold cards and everything to see if he can actually deal damage during that last phase, which is what you're seeing right now, hopefully, if I edited this right. And yeah, I would say he did okay. The single target actually was the weaker of the two, which I was not expecting, but I completely forgot that the AoE has charge, which ignores defense, if I'm not mistaken. I think it just ignores defense, which is pretty much what you would kind of want to have. Obviously, I think it's his resistance stat that sort of is super boosted on this one, so that's why power strike cards tend to hit damage cap so often. But the charge card definitely did pretty well, and then I also used an ultimate right before the phase ended, which he almost killed my Meliodas off in the process, and I did deal damage cap with the ultimate, so I guess there's that. I do have a 6/6 ultimate on him because he's so old. I've pulled several copies of him since I've played, but you know, if you maybe don't have higher ultimate levels or whatever, and you do end up testing this out, I guess let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the bird. I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, he was pretty easy. I was able to beat it on my first run through of all 3 floors. Yeah, pretty normal. Alrighty, so next up we have the deer, and I have to say, I think the deer was probably one of the best teams that I could use. I did end up running pretty much the same setup, except obviously Nidhoggr was swapped out for Jormungand because she is the character for the deer. But because Jormungand's Holy Relic actually ranks up cards on top of Lostvayne's, you know, passive ranking up cards, you're basically just always sitting on really good, heavy-hitting cards from Lostvayne, which is actually just really nice in general. I would say by all means, the best part about Lostvayne is the fact that he is just a normal attribute character. He's a red unit, which means that you don't have to worry about him being light or dark, like some of the other melees that you can use in this, you know, fight. But honestly, it just helps synergize really well. This team in general just actually worked out really nicely because I have a light unit, which is Eikthyrnir. If you don't know, on the deer, you can basically, whenever he puts up his sort of damage reduction, where, before you start the rotation on phases 2 and 4, you can actually use light or dark characters' moves and it won't actually progress the rotation or anything like that, which is really nice. So you can basically just get extra damage off, no consequence. But the fact that he's red obviously helps out with the rotation thing. You know, you're pulling cards, you're ranking them out very, very easily. It just altogether was just really nice. He just dealt really good damage. I did end up fumbling on the very last phase, and I just didn't play it quite correctly, and ended up like popping the revive on him. And just because I was not too worried about it, I already have all of the relics for the first 3 demonic beasts anyway. I just kind of ended up forfeiting out, but I really don't have a whole lot to say about the deer. It was super smooth, really. It really didn't have any consequences. Obviously, the very last phase is kind of a problem sometimes if you end up popping the revive, but overall, I would say that it genuinely just was like a pretty enjoyable time. Really not a whole lot of downsides to it at all. So, I mean, if you want to run him on the deer, I guess you definitely could. Next up, we have the dogs, and during this run, I did end up losing Lostvayne on the very last phase of floor 2, which was very unfortunate, so I ended up stopping my run after that. I was actually able to beat floor 2 with Freyr Ultimate, but honestly, I kind of liked Lostvayne on this fight. I'm not 100% sure. I would maybe have to mess around with the team a little bit more to make it a little bit more consistent, but overall, I would say that it worked out pretty good. Once you end up getting Thonar's passive procced and you get the 40% extra attack-related stats or whatever you get, dude, he hits so hard. You can see right here, I think this level 1 card ends up doing a really nice chunk of damage. Yeah, 252k on a level 1, like turn 1, is actually kind of insane. But this, I'm not sure that I really want to run Megelda on this team if I were to normally. I think normally I end up running Festival King instead, so that way I can get a little bit more damage dealt. I can kind of put up a shield to keep myself alive a little bit more, and he has a cleanse on his ultimate, which is kind of nice. But overall, I think he worked out pretty well. On the end of phase 1, you can actually just use his ultimate if you have it maxed out to completely one-shot both dogs. I ended up doing a little bit of damage to both of them just in case, but normally in this situation, I would have like ultimate Escanor or somebody and just get his ultimate ready, and then just ult both dogs on the final phase of floor 1 and kill them both. And obviously, Lostvayne kind of, you know, took up that role here. So that worked out really, really nice. Overall, like, he just does really good damage. Obviously, it is a little bit skewed because there are 2 enemies on this one, and you're not even really meant to attack like the smaller dog in the first 2 phases. So, I mean, the damage numbers look bigger, but it's because you're actually hitting 2 enemies. And, you know, one of them, it doesn't even matter whether you're doing damage to it or not. So definitely take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But overall, I would say that if I maybe refined it a little bit and found a team that really played well off of it, just having the rank up was super nice. But I would say that overall, it was just kind of a... It was kind of a good time. It wasn't too bad. Obviously, I would have liked to have tried to beat all 3 floors with it, and I don't know, it just kind of was unfortunate that Lostvayne ended up getting kind of killed on the second phase, but it is what it is. I didn't want to spend like too much time trying to like force runs to win, because I just don't know what teams would be really, really good for this just yet, but I may do some more experimenting with that in the future. Alrighty, and last but not least, we have Nidhoggr, who is by far the hardest boss. Obviously, I didn't go for like a crazy set of runs here or anything like that. This is actually the team that I end up using for Nidhoggr normally, but obviously in place of Lostvayne, I'm using Trader Melly in normal runs. I originally was using the Goddess team, but this team just seems a little bit more consistent, and I've actually been able to beat floor 3 for the first time this past week, so that's really, really nice. I'll try to do a video on that sometime soonish, but this is, you know, focusing on Lostvayne. Either way, for this fight, I think he's actually really good. I think that there's a lot of really great ways to utilize his sort of rank up and everything, which is awesome. He deals really nice damage overall. Like I said in the beginning of the video, some of these bosses just really don't want to crit, which is very unfortunate, but if you can actually save up some of his cards, you can sort of use that to help bypass the fact that in the very last phase of floor 1, you really need to use higher tier cards, or like the Pierce cards, really, more than anything, to sort of knock down his bar to actually be able to kill the boss a lot faster. But I did end up forcing this run a little bit more than the last few, just because I really wanted to at least beat floor 1 on this one, and I did end up doing that. I did lose 2 different times. I lost my first 2 runs while fighting Nidhoggr on this one, but it was mainly because I just could not seem to get the RNG to pull 1 extra Pierce card. I think I was one one level 1 Pierce card away from a level 3 in both of the first 2 runs, and it ended up screwing me pretty bad, because if you get him below 30% HP in the last phase, he gets a lot of attack-related stats, and he basically just insta-kills you, so you can't really do that. You can't do too much damage. I think Magelda was hindering me a little bit as well, because just drawing a whole bunch of ultimates that I can't use because they'll deal too much damage kind of sucked, but overall, the last run, I ended up saving a couple of extra cards. I ended up getting the Pierce card to level 3 on Freya, which was really nice. And just having those, level 3s are just super, super good. If you use a regular level 3 without it being Pierce, it takes 25% of the gauge on the side. And then if you use a Pierce card at level 3, it takes off 50% of the gauge. So just being able to use, one gold Pierce card, 2 gold melee cards, that was enough to bring his bar all the way down to 0, which was super, super nice. But yeah, I think if you get lucky enough, because unfortunately this boss doesn't have a unit dedicated to it yet, besides Freya's Relic, which isn't enough on its own to really make this boss easy, we may end up seeing it become a lot more accessible in the future, of course, when a unit actually ends up dropping for it. But I would say that this one was a pretty decent shot. I think the fact that, just being able to get higher tier cards to lower the gauge on the side a lot faster was just super, super good in general. I think he has like a built-in passive or something like that, where if you use like a rank up skill in, I think the second 2 floors, or maybe even like later in the first floor, I'm pretty sure he gains some sort of stats, or like debuffs you or something. I can't remember. There's a reason why you can't use go to rank up cards, so this is like a cool, nice way to get around that kind of. But that is pretty much it. I would say overall, I don't really recommend using Lostvayne for Nidhoggr. Maybe I think you could potentially use him on some of the other ones if you can find the right team for him, or if you just want to brute force the bird or the deer. I think you could definitely pull it off with those a lot easier than the later 2. But yeah, I don't know. I think I had a pretty good time with him. I think he's pretty good overall. He does a lot of damage. Rank up is insane. It's just super nice whenever it does actually happen. But yeah, I don't think it's like the greatest option. Like, I don't think that you should be just replacing every damage dealer on all of your teams with Lostvayne. Like, I don't think it's quite that simple. But if you want to use him, it's definitely, not going to hurt anything, and you could definitely get used to using him on the teams and maybe get a little bit more efficient with him that way. So that is pretty much it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to try to test him out on. I have seen people use him in OG Demon, but I did not like that, so I don't necessarily think I'll be doing that, but maybe. I don't know. But either way, feel free to subscribe. I will see you guys later.